all you beautiful and amazing people, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the show. If you're new to the channel, I'm your host Hyde, and this is Hide and Seek Media, where we talk about news, sports, politics, and so much more. Afghanistan was a complete failure in the hands of the Biden administration. We saw firsthand how incompetent this administration can be when left to its own and with nobody checking them. We watched people clinging to airplanes as they were trying to escape what would now become the Taliban ruled Afghanistan.
Pour onto the runway, trying to flee the country in what can only be described as a chaotic exodus. Now, people are literally clinging on to US military aircrafts as they try to take off.
One can only imagine the horrors these people were fleeing. I for one, don't want to ever have to endure that kind of fear. But if we don't stop what's going on in this country right now, it may end up being that way here in the United States as well. I know I may sound hyperbolic and I may be fear-mongering or whatever else you may call it, but this is what I see, and you guys need to be paying attention. So now we have all of these Afghan refugees who are fleeing the Taliban in fear of persecution and, retaliation for helping the United States during their 20-year war and failed attempt at nation building. So you have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Afghan refugees fleeing the country. Where are they going to go? Now, most of them are staying in the region. They're going to other countries in that region, like Pakistan and Qatar and other areas, right? But still within the Middle East, so to speak. But you do have some going, large numbers of Afghan refugees going to some European countries, like Germany and I think Switzerland said they would take some, and a few others, right? But we also have a large number of Afghan refugees coming here to the United States, and specifically here to Oklahoma. So all of you people out there in Oklahoma that's tuning in right now, make sure to watch this video all the way to the end, because I'm going to explain to you what this really means for our state and why these refugees are being resettled in the United States the way they are. Right, so make sure to stay tuned for all of that. But all of these refugees coming in aren't being properly vetted, right? And so you have a group of senators who have penned a letter to the Biden administration demanding answers for how they vet these Afghan refugees coming into these states. The letter was headed up by Senator Langford and was joined and he was joined by Rand Paul and Josh Hawley and a few others. Basically, they're saying, how are these people vetted? Why are certain people being given basically free passes, or what they call parole, through the system so that, they can be resettled without a background check or any kind of serious vetting before they actually get to the United States? These are all questions that every American, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, should be asking, because you want to know who your neighbor is, right? You want to know who's in your neighborhood. You want to know if there's some sketchy stuff going on, right? You got to be hyper aware in today's day and age, because you never know what could happen, right? It could happen in your neighborhood. You have to be paying attention to these things. And if you're not, you should be. And that's why you should be tuned into this channel right here. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified anytime I drop a new video. Now, before we get to all of this, make sure to hit that link down in the description and join my locals page, where you can be part of a community of constitutional Americans who believe in America first. And if you sign up for a premium subscription in the month of September, you'll be entered in for a chance to win free merchandise from the Hide and Seek Media store. So make sure to click the link down below and sign up today. Now, let's get to the news. So the first story we got today is from Axios, right? They say mapped Afghan refugees headed to 46 states. Approved number of Afghan refugees by the state, right? Here's a map. So as you can see, you got the most going to California with 5,255 refugees, right? Second most, Texas, 40, a little over 4,400, right? So this seems logical. Two biggest economies, right? Two biggest states, probably the most logical places to put refugees, right? But this country is very, very vast, right? And there's a lot of land out there and a lot of places where we could have refugees go, right? So we've tried that experiment, right? In Dearborn, Michigan, places like Albuquerque, New Mexico, right? Where you put large groups of certain refugees, whether they be Muslims or Somali or whatever, right? Then you have these large pockets now of a certain group of people in specific areas, right? And it's not just the state, right? Well, there's more to it than that, and we'll get into that. So make sure to stay tuned, right? But Axios goes on to say the Biden administration notified governors and mayors on Wednesday of the number of Afghan evacuees their state is expected to receive in the coming weeks, two senior administration officials told Axios. Right. So first, right off the bat, it wasn't the governors who said, okay, this is how many refugees we are willing to take. It was the other way around. It was the Biden administration saying, here is how many you are going to take. Right. So it was the Biden administration who picked the number of refugees going to each one of these states. Just remember that for later. They say why it matters. Although their exact immigration pathway is still unclear, an initial group of 37. Okay, so first of all, initial. Remember, see, key word, right? An initial group of 37,000 Afghans will soon be headed to states across the country after many faced harrowing journeys from Afghanistan. And not give them that. That was a rough situation. But remember, it was the Biden administration that put you in that situation. So if you're going to turn to them and look for them to help you now, then you're a fool. Because, what's the saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? Because you should know better by now. They go on to say, former Delaware Governor Jack Markle, Democrat, who President Biden appointed on Friday to oversee Afghan resettlement, made calls to state and local leaders notifying them on the number of Afghans to expect. Right? So here we go. Like I said, it wasn't the state saying, yeah, well, we can take this many. It was Markle here and the Biden administration saying, put this many here, put that many there, put this many here. In conversations with nearly every state on Wednesday, not one official declined to take in Afghans. One senior administration official told Axios. I have to say, it was a very warm conversation with state and local leaders. Well, from the political side and from a financial side, yeah, these guys are going to say, yeah, okay, sure, we'll take them. Sure, we'll take them because we're going to get federal aid for taking refugees. So, yeah, we'll take them. The more refugees we take, the more federal aid we get. By the numbers. California is projected to receive the largest number of Afghans at 5,255. Next is Texas at 4,481, according to State Department data obtained by Axios. Okay. Third most is Oklahoma at just at 1,800 even. So, for all my Oklahomans out there watching, over the next couple of months in your neighborhoods, you're probably going to see some, Afghan refugees being relocated. 1,000 refugees being resettled. I'm sorry. 1,000 refugees being resettled here in Oklahoma City, and then 800 being resettled in Tulsa. Hawaii, South Dakota, West Virginia, and Wyoming are the only states not slated to receive anyone from the first group of evacuees, along with Washington, D.C. Now, see, that's why I keep reiterating that it's the first group, because you got some states like California and Texas who got their fair share. Then you have Oklahoma, 1,800, right? Why does Maryland get almost 1,400 refugees, right? So, but then you got New York, almost 1,200. Georgia, 1,100. Missouri, 1,200, right? So, look at this. Look at this. Washington, 1,700. Arizona, 1,600. This is just the first wave. And these are all key states, right? Well, not Washington, right? I mean, well, they are. You got to bolster your home turf too, right? California is a home state. Michigan, New York. You got to reinforce these states, right? And trust me, you will see where all of this is going at the end. So just make sure to stay tuned and watch the video all the way to the end. And if you like what you see so far, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about Afghan refugees being relocated in your neighborhood, right? So, KOCO, and so that brings me to this story from KOCO Channel 5 News from Oklahoma City, where they report the first group of Afghan refugees arrives in Oklahoma City, right? So, the first family of refugees is here in Oklahoma, right? So, my biggest concern for all of that is I bet this family is just running from the Taliban and just wants to seek asylum and live a life of freedom and enjoy all the splendors that come with living in the United States. I hope and wish that, right? I really do, because that is the beauty of America. That's why we are the melting pot. Come here. You are welcome to come here, but there are a few stipulations, right, to coming to this country. First of all, this is a country, and so we are a country of laws, country of laws that need to be abided by, right? So we ask that you abide by our laws. We ask that you believe in our beliefs as far as that this country is a great country, that your freedoms are inalienable, and that you deserve to have them, right? And that you respect the rule of law in this country, so that you abide by the Constitution and so forth. So, I mean, those are just a few things that we ask when you come here. You know, if you were to move to another country, like say in Europe, how long do you think you get away? Okay, let's say you move to France, right? How long do you think you're going to get away speaking English all the time? Yeah, pretty soon, nobody is going to help you. They're just going to think you're an arrogant American who has no culture because you haven't taken the time to learn their language and assimilate to their country. Well, we ask the same thing here in the United States, right? Some people don't believe in that. I don't necessarily agree with those people. But if you're one of those people, leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about how we should handle this situation and whether we should be thinking about Americans first in this situation and not the Afghan refugees, right? Because while my heart goes out to the refugees, it truly does. I want to know who's moving into the neighborhood. I want to know that they've been thoroughly checked out and that they're not some, terrorist. To be honest, to be frank, if I want to be frank about it, I want to make sure they're not going to do harm in my neighborhood. I also want to make sure they're not some kind of sexual predator. And that's why while I'm not a huge fan of Senator Langford, I am glad that he did write this letter to the Biden administration demanding basic answers from Afghan refugee vetting process. Right? He, along with Senator Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, Rick Scott, and Ron Johnson, all want answers from the Biden administration on how these refugees are being vetted. So these senators sent this letter because they want to make sure that the refugees coming into their states are properly vetted before they're allowed in and before they're resettled, and living next to their constituents, right? So Oklahoma Senator James Langford was joined by several of his Republican colleagues in the Senate to send a letter to the Biden administration seeking answers on the vetting process for Afghan evacuees sent to the United States following two criminal indictments filed against refugees housed at Wisconsin's Fort McCoy. So this is why you have to vet the evacuees, the refugees. This is why you have to know who's living in your neighborhood. If you have kids, you need to know who is in your neighborhood and whether it's safe or not for your kids to be walking the streets, who to look out for, what to look out for, right? These are all things that as parents we have to be constantly aware of and constantly vigilant in teaching our children, right? So Fox News goes on to report in the letter obtained by Fox News, Senator Langford, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, Florida Senator Rick Scott, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, and Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson asked the Office of Management and Budget for answers on a request for funding to allow the Department of Homeland Security to change the legal status of Afghan evacuees on a case-by-case basis and waive grounds for inadmissibility used to determine if refugees pose a threat to the United States or its citizens. Okay, so if you kind of got lost there, basically in this letter, they are demanding answers as to why Homeland Security is submitting a request for funding to allow them to change the legal status and waive grounds of inadmissibility on some of these refugees coming into the United States. So if there's grounds for admissibility and one of the refugees meets the threshold of that, why are we going to waive that and let them in the country? Why would you do that? Right? That doesn't make any sense to me. Unless you have other reasons than protecting American citizens. So, I don't know. It seems pretty dangerous to me that if somebody meets that threshold of inadmissibility and you waive it to let them in the country, it seems to me like you're doing that on purpose to hurt American citizens because you're putting a potentially dangerous person into the population where they can do harm to people, like these two people being indicted at Fort McCoy. The letter goes on to say, quote, regarding Afghan nationals who have been resettled in the United States, Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas issued a memorandum on August 23, 2021, instructing U.S. Customs and Border Protection to parole certain Afghan nationals into the United States, the letter says. This memo explicitly notes that some of these individuals were in various stages of processing for immigration status in the United States, but were not able to complete these processes because of the certain situation in Afghanistan. In other words, they were in the middle of getting a green card or a special immigration visa or whatever, and Biden's hasty pullout, right, caused them to get screwed over. And so, because we screwed them over, we're going to give them a free pass, is basically what he's saying, right? While the Biden administration has stated in briefings and in fact sheets that Afghan parolees undergo biometric and biographic screening, the Biden administration has yet to provide my staff, members of Congress, or the public with basic answers about its vetting procedures for Afghan parolees or demographic information about the Afghan parolee population. The letter then outlines some of the basic answers that Langford and his Republican colleagues in the Senate Homeland Security Committee are looking for. Quote, how many Afghan nationals are waiting on background checks at a transit site? How many Afghan nationals have been paroled into the United States? The Republican senators asked. What specific categories, classes, or criteria constitute the administration's definition of vulnerable Afghans? How many individuals who have been paroled into the United States fall under each category, class, or criteria? The letter took issue with the Office of Management and Budget's guidance that requests an appropriation of $6.4 billion to support the Biden administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan. With that $6.4 billion request, OMB asked Congress to enact legislation that would allow the Secretary of Homeland Security to adjust the status of Afghan parolees and, on a case-by-case basis, waive any applicable provision of Section 212 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, the letter states. Your request to waive these grounds of inadmissibility raises significant questions about the Biden administration's Afghanistan withdrawal. That is just one of many things that raise questions about the Biden administration's Afghanistan withdrawal. The request for answers from Republican senators comes on the heels of two federal indictments being issued against two Afghan nationals being held at Fort McCoy in Wisconsin. It goes on to mention that the Afghans, the two evacuees, sexually assaulting minors. One of them choked his wife. So yeah, I want to know who these refugees are, what they've done, their backgrounds. Before they need to be completely vetted before they're put into a neighborhood where my kids are out in the streets. Because let somebody put their hands on my daughter the wrong way. Yeah, you can come get me. I'll be waiting. You can fly 7 red and blues and come get me because I'll be waiting. You'll need to bring a bus with you too, or a meat wagon with you too, because Somebody won't be walking away. Touch my kid. Shit. Anyways, another reason outside of safety that we need to be concerned about why they're moving these Afghan refugees into these specific states is because of this story that came out in April. California loses congressional seat. Texas gains 2 seats in 2020 U.S. Senate, right? So census, right? So basically, the story or this article talks about how populations in states matter in in regards to how many congressional seats and representatives you have in the House, right? So California lost population, so their congressional seat number went down. Texas population went up, their congressional seat number went up. So that's why I believe they're moving all of these refugees into these specific states, right? So look at this map, right? This was the map from the 2020 census, right? So you have California lost a seat, right? Oregon gained a seat. Montana gained a seat. Colorado gained a seat. Texas gained 2 seats. Florida gained a seat. North Carolina gained a seat. West Virginia. So all the purple basically lost a seat. All the green gained, right? You can see the little key here. This kind of lays out all the gains and losses for congressional seats after the 2020 census, right? You can see there was a lot of shuffling around. A lot of states lost seats. A lot of states gained. Okay. But if you look at this map, you can kind of get an idea of why they're moving these numbers of refugees in the first rounds, right? It'll be interesting to see where the second round and third rounds of these evacuees end up going, to what states, because it's really going to make a difference when they do another census and you have um, bigger pockets of blue voters in red states like Oklahoma, Georgia, Arizona, Texas, right? Missouri. All of these states are vote Republican normally, and they have some of the largest increases in numbers, right, in the first round. Then you also have, and I mean, you have places like Austin, Texas, it's pretty Democrat, right? And so they're trying to expand that, right, and turn Texas purple, right, so that it becomes a battleground state like Ohio and Florida. So that's one of the reasons why they're moving populations into these specific areas within these states as well, right? They're moving them into Oklahoma City and Tulsa, right? They're not moving them into smaller, spreading them out over small towns. Tulsa's in even in Oklahoma, where we are probably the one of the most conservative states in all of the United States. I mean, in 2016 and 2020, both presidential elections, there was not one county that voted blue in Oklahoma. Not one. So it's a pretty conservative state. It's a pretty red state. And the only way to change that is to insert pockets of Democrat voters, right, wherever you can. You're not going to get very many Democrats that willingly move to Oklahoma, right? Just because it's pretty conservative here in Oklahoma. So instead, you have to inject them. And that's what this is doing, right? They're injecting these populations. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if you see a lot more Republican states get large numbers of evacuees, over the next coming months, because one, yes, they do get federal funding from the government for doing this, but two, the federal government gets something too. The powers that be at the moment get something in return too, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why the Biden administration did mess up the Afghan withdrawal. What better way to ensure, or what better way to gain blue areas, right, in these states by raising the population, and then when it comes time to vote, right, now you have more of these people who they may not be citizens, right, and they may not be able to vote, but they're still, they can still influence people, right, and still change uh, a lot of votes and swing people to vote for a moderate Democrat, right? Like Kendra Horn was a Democrat who won here in Oklahoma, and it's very rare that you get a Democrat that wins in Oklahoma, right? I think Oklahoma is the only state that has a Republican governor and a Republican mayor for its capital city, um, along with an all a majority Republican state senate and all Republican House and Congress, or senators and congressmen. So um, I think we're completely Republican across the board. So they don't get much redder than that, right? So that's why they're doing that. It's that so they can inject um, these pockets of blue Democrat, you know, loyalists, if you will. Um, and I don't know, I may be way off base, and if I am, hit me up in the comments, man. Let me know. Hey, hey, man, you're a complete idiot, and this has nothing to do with demographics and redistricting and all of that stuff, right? Nothing to do with it. Let me know. But that's just my thoughts, though. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, so you get notified anytime I drop a new video. Smash that like button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video and the topic. I love to engage with my viewers, so feel free to fire away. Also, I'm trying to get the URL of my channel changed from all these funky letters and numbers to my channel name. But the only way I can do that is if I hit 100 subscribers. So I need everybody that watches this video to hit that share button and share this video on all social media platforms, man. Get it out there. Get people to my channel. Get them subscribed so I can get that URL changed and it don't look so janky up there whenever you go check out my channel. I appreciate everything you guys are doing, and I will catch y'all later. Peace.